Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our monthly installation of the Teaching and Learning webinars for EdTechTeam. This is November, oh no, it's not November. This is October 17th. And we are going to be talking about Canada 150 and some Canadian classroom stories. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share with all of you. Got way too many tabs open this evening. A couple things that I just want to go over. So everybody should have the link to our Canadian classroom stories, and you can actually find the resources to the slide deck and everything that we are sharing tonight at edtech.team/Canadian classroom stories. And I'll keep that on the next screen just as I go through who our guests are today. So my name is Lisa Thuman, and I come to you from EdTechTeam USA. And I also have with me from EdTechTeam Canada, Emily Fitzpatrick. Our guest speakers today are Jason Lloyd, Kathy Beach, Lee Castle, and Karen. I should have asked Karen how to pronounce her names, but Karen is actually our first speaker tonight, and she will be so kind as to pronounce it for us. You can find all of these resources for everything tonight at edtech.team/Canadian classroom stories. So I invite you to join us in the slide deck and to also complete the form that I've linked to for a chance to win a chance to win a free online course with EdTechTeam. Also, join us in the chat, the YouTube live chat, and on Twitter using the hashtags EdTechTeam and also hashtag, Emily, is it Canada 150?
So you can totally use hashtag Canada 150, or you can use our Canadian Stories hashtag of hashtag 150EDU.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much, Emily. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat for us as well. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Karen to start with her really fascinating, I'm so excited to hear this, her Canadian classroom story. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and hand this over to Karen, who's going to screen share with us.
Hello, everybody. Just give me a minute while I get my presentation up and running. It's so exciting to be here tonight and to get to see everybody. Can you all see this, the presentation? Can you all see that? All right, so I'm going to hit present. And it looks like we have liftoff. All right, so my name is Karen Gopin-Wee. I am, I guess, a seasoned teacher now. I've been working in language arts and social studies for the last 18 years. And I want to talk to you today about a program that has really changed, I think, just the spirit and energy in my classroom and in my school. So first of all, I teach in a very tiny independent school, and every single one of our students in our school has a diagnosed learning disability or struggles with learning in some way, shape, or form. All of our kids are really bright, they're really capable, but school has not been a great place for them. And so I came to my school, Rundle Academy, about 4 years ago, and I was looking for a brand new extracurricular, new school, new extracurricular. And I was looking for something that didn't require a lot of evenings and weekends because I had 2 really small kids at home. I also wanted to do something that had something to do with my passions of inquiry-based learning and TED. I am a self-professed TED-ophile, and I just find that everything that TED puts out is fascinating and interesting. And so lo and behold, I just stumbled across their brand new, at the time, just launched TED Ed program. And so being kind of curious, I applied for their program, and I will show you, how you can do that later on in the presentation. And I basically applied for a club. You have to go and apply for a club, and they interview you. And so what they do is they interview you quite a bit. They want to get to know who you are. And next thing I know, I'm being asked to go to the live stream of the official TED conference in Vancouver in 2014, in March 2014, and it was called TED Active. And they wanted me to go there and help them, along with about 10 other teachers from around the world, really take a hard look at their TED Ed Club and TED Ed lesson program. And so I got this amazing, like, surreal experience of going to a TED conference and getting to work with the people behind the TED Ed Club's program. And if you want to explore what that looks like, they have a great video that will get you very, very excited and pumped about the program. So I got this amazing chance to really have a say in what I thought kids needed in the classroom. And at that point, I was really advocating for kids to have a voice and to have choice. And that's what TED Ed Clubs provides. They provide a really, really beautiful, teacher-centric, teacher-friendly, students-friendly presentation literacy program. Another thing that I was really, really fascinated by is this notion that everybody's always telling me that my students are disengaged. I don't think our students are disengaged at all. I think our students are very engaged with the world. But the problem sometimes in school is that we don't give our students anything to engage with. And so by finding this TED Ed program, little did I know that it was going to end up opening up a real world platform where my students could share their ideas worth sharing with the school, with their friends, and with the global community. So the other thing that really drew me to the TED Ed Clubs program was this notion that the people behind the TED Ed Clubs program, and Logan Smalley is the director. He's a special education educator from Georgia. All of the people who work for that program were former educators. They really recognize that, you know, you might look at those TED speakers, like the people at the official TED conference, and go, wow, they're amazing. But you know what? Those are people that are at the apex of their career. They were a kid. At some point, they had a passion or an interest or a desire to figure something out. And somewhere along the line, somebody helped them find that passion. And I looked at this TED Ed Club program and went to myself and said, oh my gosh, I think this could be what I'm looking for my students. So, a long story made very short. We ended up getting approved for a TED Ed Club license. And because I happened to have a tech integrationist at school who was very, very, very keen about the TEDx program, we ended up not only having a TED Ed Club, but all of our kids who were speakers in our TED Ed Club program went on to be speakers at our official TEDx Rundle Academy performance about 5 months later. So I will talk briefly about the TEDx program a little bit later on, but what I want to focus on is I think we need to go out of our ways to find real-world platforms where students can talk about and engage with the ideas that are passionate for them. And it doesn't mean that, you know, like we sometimes think that the only students who have passions are the students who are like great in science or great in math, but I've had students who are really, really, really profoundly passionate about first-person shooter video games, or they're really passionate about doodling, and they see doodling not as like some pastime where you turn your brain off, but something that you do to that makes you human. So when I got to meet the students in my new school, it really dawned on me that these kids have dreams, and who are we as teachers? Are we the people that go and say, no, we don't have time for those dreams right now, we have curriculum to get through? Or are we the kinds of people who say, yes, I want to hear about your dreams and I'm going to find a way for this to happen? So I'm going to just go through quickly sort of the process of how to TED Ed. And I will talk about some of the things that the TED Ed program offers and how it makes this a really manageable thing to do in any kind of school. All right, So first off, really, really, really know your why. Why do you want your club? Do you want it to improve your students' presentation literacy? Do you want it to help improve their ability to be great in drama? Do you want to have a science TED club where all of your students are really passionate about this, about STEM or physics, and everybody wants to do a physics inquiry project? I think it's just really important to know what you want. Do you want your kids to have glory, or do you want that really quiet, shy kid just to feel good in a group of other kids that are really curious about the world? In any endeavor, it's helpful to have an ally. And it's not always easy to bring a new program into a school. And so I feel that if you're going to bring the TED Ed program into your school, you need to make sure that you have somebody on your side, either an administrator or a respected colleague. I was really lucky to have, like I said, the tech integrationist totally on my side, and also a gentleman who taught English 30. And together, it was much more easy to present our idea and vision to our admin team. Apply. It's really easy. All you have to do is go to ed.ted.com. Apply. The application will take you like maybe 15, 20 minutes. And before you know it, you'll be having a Google Hangout with the TED Ed team, and you'll be approved. Now, how do you sell this to kids? This is not exactly an exciting club when you think about it. It's a speech club. It's like a Toastmasters club. It's a club for intellectual adventures. Not every kid is going to think that that's cool. And especially in my school, where almost all of my students really struggle with reading and writing, the thought of having to write a talk was really frightening for them. So we talked a lot about the supports that we would have in place and how this was just a place to go and explore. And much to my amazement, I got a club off the ground. We started out with 7 kids, and last year we had 35. So it's really growing. The other thing that's really important for TED Ed clubs to be successful is that you find a role for every single kid. And this program enables you to do so. There are roles for kids who want to be leaders. There are roles for kids who just want to be vloggers or photographers. There's kids who just want to help organize the club. And so I think one of the reasons why our club really became as successful in our school and became far larger than I ever thought it would be is because we found a job for every single kid. So if they didn't want to write a talk, but they wanted to be my photographer, we let them do that. If they didn't want to write a talk, but they liked to blog and were really tech savvy, they helped write content for our website. I think it's really important to be flexible with this kind of club. My students need so much support that most of my due deadlines went and passed and were gone. You have to be flexible, and it's okay to go and talk to the people at TED Ed and ask for extra time. But at the same time, you want your kids to produce something, so you have to stand your ground. And finally, give it time. It will happen. Maybe not as fast as you want, and I actually think it's better to start off with a really small club than a really huge one. If you only have 4 kids who want to make ideas worth sharing, that's fine. And the other thing is, kids are going to come out of the woodwork that you didn't even know loved ideas, and next thing you know, you're going to have a huge club. All right, I'm trying to be mindful with the time. Quickly, I just want to tell you all the things that you will get. So TED Ed does not leave you alone. First of all, the actual people there are remarkable and will help you with anything you need. They have one of the best student support materials. So I know when, as a former drama teacher, just coming together with all your materials or starting a club from scratch or building a newspaper club from scratch, you just don't have materials. And what TED Ed gave to us were really, really good support materials that helped our kids and gave us a sense of where we could go with the club. They have this innovative educators program, and anybody who's in that program usually has a TED Ed club, and we can help you. There's a really active Facebook page, and we're just really excited to be connected. And so there's a lot of, bringing it back to the kids, how did this change our kids' lives? Well, yes, obviously got to present their ideas, and we put on a really interesting evening, and you know, they got to film their talks and put them up onto the TED YouTube site. But what's really amazing is this thing called Club Connects. Your club is going to get a chance to connect with other clubs from around the world. You could be having lunch with kids from Pakistan, from Buenos Aires, from somewhere in Africa, a club somewhere in China. The global implications of this club are huge, and I think that's just really important in our desire to become more of a globalized world. Again, your kids can be featured in the TED newsletter. They can write material for it. They can also help contribute or pitch ideas to the TED blog. And here's the thing that makes my students absolutely excited. Talk about a real world platform. So the TED organization holds periodically TED youth conferences, but what's the most exciting thing and the latest newest thing from the TED Ed program is this thing called the TED Youth Weekend. And what TED Ed is trying to do is they're trying to give the TED Ed Club kids a really amazing opportunity to actually end up being an official TED speaker. And so this is a remarkable conference where your kids can go, you can apply. It's usually 4 kids from your club can go. There's usually space for 4 kids, and they can learn leadership skills. And they can meet up with other kids from around the world, and they can share their ideas, and they can just see how a conference runs. And so this is something that my students are super, super excited about this year. They never thought ever that they might end up being able to participate in something like that. And finally, if you want to see what the kids can do, what can happen when you have a really structured program, when kids can share and talk to other people from around the world and see that their ideas are just like other people's ideas, or that their favorite foods are like other people's foods, I urge you all to just, take some time and check out the students that are featured on the TED Ed Club's channel. So I know that there's probably some questions about privacy and minors. TED Ed has like 2 levels. Like if you are asked to have your video put up here, your talk, that's quite an honor, and they will ask you. They will not just put it up there. For everybody else, you upload your talks to TED Ed, and you get a private secret link that you can share with who you want to share, but no one else can access. Finally, if you are interested in taking your event to the next step, feel free to think about putting on a school-wide TEDx. And we did that for 2 whole years. It became this massive, incredible experience that brought our school together. We have 216 students, and probably 100 of our students were involved in putting on this TEDx. We brought in outside speakers, but the vast majority of our speakers were our students. Our artists were our students. Our stagehands were our students. Our designers were our students. This entire concept that you see was designed by a student. It never, ever occurred to me when we first began how transformative this would be. I have students now who are excited by ideas, who think that it's totally normal to spend 13, 14, 15 weeks writing a talk, who have learned more about language arts and are better writers than they ever could have been because of an extracurricular activity. I have a few things that you can look at probably at your leisure in terms of if you are interested in putting on a TEDx event. If you're new to TED and new to the TED world and new to TED Ed, please start with the TED Ed Clubs program. It's so much more manageable. If you do a TEDx, it's a whole different ball game, and it's quite involved. And so you end up having to find sponsors and thinking about where you're going to hold it and building a team. It's a show. You will have to hire a film crew probably. And finally, video is forever. Do you really want your minors, your students, to be up on a TEDx website forever? That's something to think about, and we need to think about that. And finally, do you need to sleep? Maybe, maybe not. So there's lots of things that you can think about. But I urge you to take a good look at this amazing program, because This student here was probably one of our shyest kids in our entire school. Really struggled with all sorts of fears about being a presenter, but she was curious and she was passionate and she wanted to learn more about why we dream, and she wanted to dig deep into that subject. And you know what? I think as teachers, that's what our job is. Our job is to help our kids fulfill their dreams and to realize that being a lifelong learner is really exciting, because after all, their dreams matter. And I think that brings me to the end of my portion, my story.
Karen, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's so exciting and inspiring. You know, how it's not simple for sure, but how you can do this in your school. So, you know, thank you so much for sharing your story. We don't have any questions currently right now, but we'll circle back if some come in. You were so thorough. Thank you. For those of you that joined us a little bit late, you can find all of the resources, including everything that Karen just shared and everything that Jason is about to share with us, at edtech.team/Canadian, Canadian Classroom Stories. If you complete the form linked to in the slide deck, you have a chance to win a free online course with EdTechTeam, which we'll talk about a little bit more a little later. And without further ado, oh, it was showing Karen the whole time and not the slide. Sorry about that, guys. Technology works great when it works, right? So in the meantime, we're going to hand everything over to Jason Lloyd to talk about the Burp It On Challenge. So Jason, I'm going to mute myself and you take it away.
All right, fantastic. As mentioned, my name is Jason Lloyd, and I'm just going to share my screen here with you guys. I presume we're good there?
Yes, we are.
Wonderful. All right, so as previously mentioned, my name is Jason Lloyd. I'm a grade 5-6 homeroom teacher at Desirano Public School. I've been teaching since 2000, so about 17 years. I kind of think of myself as a physical education teacher stuck in a homeroom teacher's body. I'm a very active individual. I do some marathon running. I really enjoy sports, really enjoy being active. I'm really excited to share our initiative that my grade 5-6 students have put together. And I was honored to be invited. So let's get going here. As you can see here, these are my fabulous 5-6s. We don't always look this goofy. This is an awesome picture just to kind of show the great, wonderful kids that I have this year. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to teach grade 5-6 for the last few years, and it's really helped with our challenge that I'm going to be sharing with you. So if we can flash back to January of 2015, in our grade 5-6 class, we were working on a unit on making a difference. We looked at people like Kid President and some other individuals that really made a difference in other people's lives. And we thought as a class, you know, it would be pretty cool if we could kind of do something to make a difference in our little rural community of Desirano. It's in Desirano, Ontario. We're a very rural community. A lot of students in our community don't have the opportunity to travel that far. And it's pretty cool what we've actually been able to do with our awesome challenge that you're going to hear about. So here's our little community of Desirano. Again, a very rural community. There's not even 1,000 people in our community, I don't believe. It's nice little community in Southern Ontario. And we were kind of thinking that we would make a little difference kind of around our little local area, but we've been very surprised over the last few years, and our initiative has looked more like this. All those flags that you happen to see there are all schools, organization, teams that have been affected by the challenge that our grade 5-6 students have created. And it's absolutely remarkable. I'm in awe every time I look at a map like this and see how far widespread this particular challenge has gone. So what is this challenge? This challenge is what we call Burp It On. Burp It On is a physical activity initiative that, as I said, is created by myself and my students at Desert Public School. Burp It On, I guess we are class number 1. So my grade 5-6 class, this year being the 4th year of Burp It On, we are going to have to complete some exercises within 1 week. Last year, being year 3, we had 6 exercises that we needed to complete. There was 100 burpees. That's where the name came from, burpees for burpees kind of deal. We had 200 jumping jacks, 15 minutes of cardio, 6 minutes of wall sits, 6 minutes of planks, and 60 push-ups that we needed to complete within 1 week. There are, in fact, 3 levels of our challenge that you're going to hear about. This would be the 3rd and the most difficult level of the challenge that we do have. So when we complete that challenge, all those exercises within about 1 week or so, we then burp it on to other schools, organizations, teams, etc. And those students then complete the challenge. After they complete the challenge, they then burp it on to other schools, organizations, etc. And kind of very similar to the ice bucket challenge, I guess, from a few years back, kind of the same premise. So it really, the more people we have involved, the more exponentially it kind of grows. And through this process, over the last 3 years, we've actually reached more than 500 schools, organizations, and teams, which has been absolutely phenomenal. And just by the way, all these pictures you see along the side of these slides are actually pictures that have been sent from us from around the world. It's showing other classes and schools and organizations finishing up the challenge, and we love to see those as well. So why Burp It On? We, as a school at Desert Public School, and myself, we feel very strongly about physical activity. I really want my students to feel like they're agents of change. I want them to be ambassadors for increased physical activity, not only just for kids, but for adults around the world as well. We talk at Desert Public School within my class again about the importance of physical activity, and not only how it affects us physically, but emotionally. And there's been so much scientific evidence out there lately about the effect of academics with increased physical activity as well. We're very much a proponent of that. We do lots of physical activity within our class. We got all kinds of little things that we do on a daily basis. Through this initiative as well, we strongly feel that it's not just a 1 week occurrence for physical activity. We really want to make sure that through our program, we really strive to make sure that we really want increased physical activity, not just for that week. We want it to continue on as well. So through this, we actually have some Google Forms and things. We collect lots of data about what these schools and organizations are hoping to continue to do after they finish their challenge as well, just to make sure that we are getting our biggest bang for our buck here as well. Students in our classes, you're going to hear close to the end of the presentation, really get a big sense of accomplishment as well. Looking at that map, the students are pretty thrilled at seeing each of those flags popping up all over the world, which is absolutely amazing. And just seeing that impact that they are having around the world is something that I absolutely love seeing myself and love seeing in my students. It's absolutely wonderful. Currently, we have reached 584 schools and organizations and teams over our first 3 years. Our challenge has gone through 7 of the Canadian provinces. We're looking at over 40 US states, more than 35 countries and 6 continents. If anybody out there has some way of contacting an explorer or some penguins that could do some burpees on Antarctica, we'd really appreciate that. That'd be our 7th continent. That would be absolutely cool. And we've estimated that we've had more than 30,000 people. Again, this is all through our Google Forms, all these stats. It's absolutely amazing that we have had that many people complete our challenge from our little tiny community in Deserano. How can you participate? Anybody who is listening to this at this point in time or has any contact with us, we're more than happy to burp you. All you need to do is after November 1st, which is when we're launching our Year 4 campaign, you're going to see our website will go live, and it will have 2 Google Forms at the bottom, and then one on the left-hand side. And this one is kind of our welcome to Burp It On. You fill out a couple questions there. You tell us who you are, where you're from, and you are in. After you've completed the challenge, we have another Google form to complete, and that's where we kind of collect all the nitty-gritty information. And new this year, we're actually trying to send out some online certificates as well. So each school that completes the challenge this year, we're actually going to send them out an online certificate of completion, which is absolutely awesome. So after that, you have then become an honorary burper. You get to challenge anybody else whenever you want, and that's how we continue our process. And we really rely on people after they complete the challenge to make sure that they do have that opportunity to burp as many other schools, organizations, etc. as possible. And our challenge this year is running from November 1st until some point in May of 2018. So it does take up the majority of the school year. I was asked to mention a little bit about the technology involved here as well. We do have a great website that we have created. Social media has definitely been our friend. Twitter was high on our priorities for year 1 and 2 especially, and we still have tons of followers on Twitter, and we get a lot of our information out on there. We started to do a little bit of Facebook last year. And new for this year, we're kind of jumping on the Instagram market as well, which is great. And again, we use Google Forms, and we looked at using some form publisher as well for online certificates. This really leads itself nicely into some media literacy as well. We use iMovie for some trailers and things like that that you'll see on YouTube. We've used GarageBand in the past to create some PSAs and some radio ads and things like that. We've used Google Drawings for promotions, using it for posters, etc. And we're starting to do a little bit of marketing this year as well. My students are very excited. Very likely tomorrow I'm delivering some t-shirts to them all. We've got a brand new logo, as you saw, and some business cards and all kinds of great stuff out there. And I think most importantly is my students' perspective of all this. I know for a fact that I love this program, and it's really interesting to see what the students have to say about this as well. Just a couple quotes from my class from this year. Shelby says, "Burp It On has changed my life. I think it should stay forever. I'm never going back to the way I was before." It's a great quote from Shelby. Gavin just joined us last year, and he said, "Last year I participated in my first year of Burp It On, and let me say it was awesome. I learned how a little school in a small town can make a gigantic difference, and how a dream can become reality with a bit of work." What a great quote from Gavin. And my lovely daughter Abby, who actually happens to be in my grade 5-6 class as well, which is very interesting to say the least. She says, "Being part of the Burp It On challenge is something that cannot easily be forgotten. I love how we created something that's actually changing the world of physical activity. My personality has changed because I feel like I am more of a leader than I ever had before. Now we get to learn about where other places are in the world, and it's so inspiring because we created the challenge." And to be honest, this has been the absolutely coolest thing that I've ever done in my teaching career. It's been absolutely phenomenal, not only from a personal level, but just to see what the students have been able to accomplish out of this and the impact it's had on them. It's been truly, truly wonderful. So there's some contact info for us as well. I really hope that everybody out there hears about what Burp It On is all about, and we'd be very, very happy to hear from you in any capacity. We're here to make the world a little better, one school or organization at a time. So I appreciate that very, very much, and I will send it back to you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jason. And I'm just going to go ahead and take a real quick meet you. So thank you. And there's a ton of people in the chat who want to participate in this. So they all have your Twitter ID for Burp It On, and they're going to be reaching out to you. So that's awesome. And I have to admit, I didn't know what it was about, and that's not what I thought it was about. So kudos to you and your students and everything. I'm just going to quick screen share here again. And just a reminder to anybody who's joined us late that everything that our awesome, amazing presenters are sharing tonight can be found at edtech.team/Canadian Classroom Stories. There's still time for you to complete this form to win a chance, to get a chance to win a free online course with EdTechTeam, and we have quite a catalog to choose from. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our last two speakers of the evening, Lee and Kathy. Now, they don't live in the same area. They have quite a story to share with us. So I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting and mute myself so we can move over to, is Kathy starting? Lee is.
Yep, that would be me. All right, I just want to make sure you can hear me okay and see my screen.
Yeah, everything's perfectly.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having us. And what an incredible way to start the night off with two really powerful stories about students impacting positive change in the world. Kudos to you both and to your amazing students. My name is Lee Castle, and I am a teaching and learning coach with the Avon-Maitland District School Board. I'm also a founder and president of a resource I'm going to share with you in just a few minutes called the Digital Human Library. But before I get to that, I want to take a minute just to share a small bit of my story and tell you how I ended up involved in founding the library. So the Avon-Maitland District School Board, as you can see here, covers a very large geographic area, but we are rural and small in number. And I think quite quickly into my career, I started to notice some of the inequities within education, because I myself attended a school in a major city center and had opportunities to travel the city and go on field trips and explore the world around me while in school. But working in a school out in the middle of the country where all the kids are bussed in, it was quite a huge difference from the educational experience that I had when I was a child. And as I mentioned, I noticed a lot of inequities, especially when it came to engaging our kids with the world and being able to take them outside of the classroom and do things like field trips and travel places, because we simply couldn't afford the cost of a bus to travel anywhere, let alone couple that with the expense of actually paying to do something. So in more times than not, we weren't able to take our kids outside of the classroom. So I started to look for ways that I could bring that field trip experience into the classroom. And at the time, I was taking a number of online courses, and I was starting to use Skype and different video conferencing platforms myself as a learner. And I started to wonder how I might be able to integrate this kind of technology in the classroom. So in 2011, I decided that I was going to try to introduce my kids to the world by bringing the world into my classroom. And I initially started by connecting my students with other students in different places. We started off finding a class actually in Africa, because at the time I was teaching grade 2. And for those of you who've taught grade 2 and familiar with the curriculum, Communities around the world often focuses around what it's like to live in your own community, and then also exploring what it's like to live in, you know, one or two communities that are very vastly different from your own. So we actually were able to connect with a class in Africa, and we shared incredible stories of our similarities. We celebrated our differences, and that experience really started me down a path, and I have never looked back. In a very short time, my students had decided that they wanted to travel next to Brazil, and then we were off to Argentina, and we went to Texas and Ukraine and Germany and Iceland. And within, I think, about 6 months' time, we had connected with classes in about 14 different countries. And my kids had actually learned about communities around the world from communities around the world. And it was much more powerful than me researching the internet and sharing with them what I was able to learn, never having traveled to these places myself. So following that experience, I started to wonder what it might be like to invite other people into the classroom virtually, using, like, as we're doing here, video conferencing platforms like Skype and now Google Hangouts. And so I started to look at how we could connect with experts. So I was teaching science and thought, I wonder if I'm able to find someone at the zoo that would be willing to talk to us about mammals. That's what we were learning about at the time. And I thankfully connected with Mark McAllister at the North Carolina Zoo. And once again, I was so amazed and excited by the possibilities of working with experts in different curriculum subject areas to further and enhance the program that I was offering in my classroom. And here we land at the resource that you have access to today, which is the Digital Human Library. This library is a free educational resource. It's a not-for-profit organization now. And our mission is to deliver authentic experiential learning opportunities to students across Canada. Our goal is to connect classes with experts and other students across Canada and around the world who are really interested in connecting to learn. So the Digital Human Library, as I mentioned, is free for you to use. There are currently hundreds and hundreds of experts in all curriculum subject areas that are waiting to connect with you and your students. And I'm going to say it again, it is free. So many of these incredible organizations that belong to the library have outreach programs and are looking for new and innovative ways to connect with students in their classrooms, to share their knowledge and expertise, introduce kids to a variety of careers that exist, and engage with students and become a part of that education process. So one of the pieces that I'm just going to go through a series of some of the things that we focus on within the library, and really, of course, our mission is to improve and support the learning that's happening in a classroom, but using the technology and connecting your students with experts, as well as students and classrooms around the world, engages kids in learning that is exciting and in a way that puts kids in a position to start to build relationships and learn how to work in online spaces and get to know people in these spaces. And of course, all of these conversations, we hope, are driven by their inquiries. The library is also about supporting the development of 21st century competencies. So kids learning how to communicate in online spaces using video conferencing technology, following up with conversations on Twitter or via their blogs, learning how to collaborate with different people of all ages, from a variety of cultures and different places around the world. And of course, the conversations that evolve really support the development of critical thinking and problem solving skills, especially when we are connecting students with experts who have the knowledge and the skill set to really challenge their thinking and move that forward in a way that an elementary classroom teacher, for example, might not be able to do, especially if science is not my area of expertise. So these experts are also providing support for teachers in the classroom, especially if we are working outside of our content area or area of expertise. And of course, it's also a creative way to engage kids with the curriculum. And I think I echo a lot of the messages shared today, that what we're doing here is we're trying to build citizenship and character. We want kids to see themselves not only as people in the world, but as people who have opportunities to make a difference and impact what's happening in the world. And there are so many opportunities created here simply by making that connection. And of course, we as teachers are able to do so much more with that. So we are here to leave the world a better place. And I think being able to use resources like the library and connect kids not only with each other, but with their community, locally and globally, to engage them again in conversations about what's happening in the world and how they can be a part of that change to make that positive impact. That's what drives us forward. And while I was on my mission years and years ago, that started years and years ago, a dear friend of mine who has become a dear friend of mine, another teacher in another part of the world, was on a very similar mission. And unbeknownst to me, I'm going to let Kathy now take over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And Kathy, if you want to take over and you can talk about what you were doing on another side of the world, not having connected with me or ever talked to me prior to our initial meeting.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, Kathy, just show the presentation versus the Hangout. Perfect. And click present and you're all good to go.
So my name's Kathy Beach, and I did not know Lee when all of this was happening. I am a recently retired teacher in 2015, and I was just thinking about if Canada 150 is coming up. Kids today are completely different than the kids I was around for the 100th birthday in 1967. And I got thinking about what my students in my absolute lovelies in the last class I taught before I retired, grade 7, what they would want to do. And they sure wouldn't want to walk around and see things the way I did in 1967. And as soon as I asked that question in my mind, I could absolutely hear them answer. Just watching Lee's slides talking about connecting around the world, it was so easy for us to find classes around the world. And I know that they would say, if it's going to be a Canadian event, we really need a way to find other classes in Canada and to be able to connect and learn and talk with each other. And so that's how the dream began. And I thought, that's what we really need. I wonder if there's some way we can actually do that. And the dream began, and 2.5 very long years later, after a very long roller coaster ride of huge dips and dives, the dream's finally reality. And the project is called The Kids Guide to Canada, by kids and for kids, Un Guide du Canada par des enfants pour des enfants. And we have created it with the assistance and support of over $250,000 of in-kind support from an impressive range of educational organizations from across Canada and small businesses. And just in the past few months, we've received financial assistance, actually cash in hand, from the Ministry of Heritage's Canada 150 Fund, and most recently from the Retired Teachers of Ontario Service to Others grant. But really, because most of that has been in kind, the project has been made possible because of the extraordinary volunteer efforts of elementary teachers from right across Canada who are really, truly dedicated to our kids and connecting them and creating a better future. Kids Guide, 100% free, inclusive, not just bilingual, but multilingual, with a focus on adding Indigenous languages. Teacher-led, cross-curricular, open-ended, teaches digital citizenship and safety, support for schools that lack reliable internet service, and a teacher could participate in the project with a minimum of one class period, but once you get involved in some of the activities, you could keep going forever. So it's really up to the teachers. But with a focus really on kids, because kids in 2017 want to contribute and they want to create and they want to share their point of view. And I've lost a slide there, that's not a problem. There are 4 parts to this project. The first part is all about the preparation that the teacher needs to do, with a ton of resources in all kinds of format, text and video and audio, so a teacher can hear, watch, read, whatever the instructions are for whatever they want. And we have student activities that are organized along 3 themes. The You Matter theme with Angela Meyer's work, intercultural communication skills and activities that build that kind of understanding of how to relate to people of other cultures. And the most important one that is our non-negotiable, digital citizenship and safety. Part 2 is the actual creating of community introductions and doing that in English, French, and wherever possible, Indigenous languages, to add the normalcy of their languages to our cultural landscape. So whether it is something that is made by hand, some artwork by grade 6 and 7s or kindergarten, or whether they are digital creations of any type, as long as the content has been created by the students, by kids and for kids, anything goes. Any tools, any content, as long as it's about their local neighborhood community. And then, once the content is created, only the teacher has access to the actual Kids Guide map so that they can upload the student articles. And then when you click on the map, it opens up and you can see the information about the school. You can click on their artifacts if they have photographs, if they have videos, or if they've linked to another site that they've created, a website or a class blog. And you can find out enough information. If you notice, this school is Burntwood School in grade 2 in Manitoba. You could then later on find that school and connect with them. We couldn't handle up to 5 million student accounts, and the safety issues involved in that would be too huge. So students need to understand that it is not a student-to-student project, it's a class-to-class project. Part 3 is the exciting part. Trying to connect classes, finding a way, for what my students had said, in Canada, we need to have a way where we can find each other. Where we can find each other if we want to do a math project or a language project or a plant study and find out what the plants are like in all parts of Canada. But the problem of doing that with the way we'd set up the Kids Guide to Canada was we needed a way to provide teachers and classes a way that they could connect in private and in a safe and secure location. And that's where, when Lee and I met, we started talking, and we quickly realized that we could use the power of the digital human library that Lee had already set up to give teachers a chance to look for the class that their class might have looked on the map and found a class in Thompson, Manitoba that they wanted to talk to. The teacher can then take their free account in the digital human library and go in and find the classroom, and the teacher will be listed, and then they can get in touch and find out whether that teacher would like their classes to connect, to pursue further learning of their own design. And that all takes place behind the scenes. We had never met. We found each other by having some commonality. And I'm going to go back to that. We realized the power of our projects to work together to come up with something new. And we worked together, talked almost daily on all kinds of platforms, but we never ever met. So it took us almost a year to meet in person. We just met this past April, and we're poster children for the power of the internet, the positive power of the internet, to create new and deep relationships, because that's what our project is all about. The connecting of kids. Whether it's technology or old-fashioned snail mail. We have a large social media presence. Everything we do is AKGT Canada, or AKGTC for short, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. We have all kinds of information for teachers, and we would love to have all kinds of classes across Canada participate and help our kids to meet each other. Lee and I, we have talks about what may happen in the future. We talk a lot about Canada's need for a teacher network, where Lee's Digital Human Library, I should mention, is K-12. Our project is K-8, but we need a formal teacher network all across Canada. And Lee and I have started conversations about how we might achieve that. And so we would like to talk to anyone who has some ideas on that, and we'd like to move forward on that. Who knows what two people who've never met before we might come up with. So that I will turn over to questions.
Wow, Lee and Kathy, like, just a phenomenal story. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, it's just fantastic that you were finally able to meet in person and accomplish so much.
Can I just give a quick shout out to Rolla, because Rolla is, I know she's here in the back channel and she's tweeting and she's supporting it. And Rolla Tibshirani was actually the one that said, hey, do you know Kathy Beach? She just tweeted out something about this Kids Canada project, and I think you might be interested. So Rolla, thank you for introducing us. I just wanted to give that shout out since she's here. So thank you for letting me do that.
How awesome is that? And yeah, I saw her on Twitter, so that was great. In a moment, I'm going to hand things over to Emily, but just want to mention one last time, because we are coming to the end of our time together. I just want to mention that this is your last chance to go to edtech.team/Canadian Classroom Stories. I know I'm a broken record, but if you complete the form that's linked there, you get entered to win a chance to win a free online course with EdTechTeam. And we're going to announce that winner in about 3 minutes. But in the meantime, let's pause, and Emily, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. So I'm going to steal a minute and share with you guys an initiative that was just launched this week. So in the theme of sharing stories and collecting stories from around Canada, we have our new #150EDU initiative. And our goal is, in celebrating Canada's 150th birthday this year, we're hoping to collect at least 150 stories from students, educators, parents, community member organizations, companies, but all just really showcasing the awesome stuff that's going on here in Canada. So if you want to head over to 150edustories.ca, you can check out our stories link. We've got 2 of them posted. One from Vancouver and one from Ottawa so far, with new stories being posted every day. And there's also the page where you can go and submit your stories. So we're looking for those stories, just like Karen and Kathy shared with us today. We want you guys to be able to come on in and share your stories with us, so we can celebrate them throughout the year.
Great, thanks, Emily. And I want to, once again, thank all of our guest speakers from tonight. Really great stories to share. Unfortunately, we had Trevor with us, and he was going to share an absolutely amazing story from another classroom story from Canada, but technology got in the way and we couldn't get things to work. So look out on the EdTechTeam blog for a story about Trevor coming soon. So EdTechTeam.online. We have many, I think about 20 different online courses available now, and you can find that at edtechteam.online. The person who wins the online course tonight actually gets to choose which of the just-in-time 15-hour courses they'd like to take. So, you know, I read it to you so many times, so I'm not going to do it again. I want you to learn more and stay connected. All of this information will be archived at edtech.team/Canadian Classroom Stories, including a link to the webinar, a link to the archive chat, a link to everything you could possibly use. I would love for you to request a workshop with EdTechTeam. If you live in Canada and teach in Canada, Emily or Michelle Armstrong will be getting back to you. And if you live and work in the United States, I will be getting back to you. And then, of course, we have subsidiaries in the UK, Australia, Mexico City, and I hope I didn't leave any subsidiaries out. If you need a PD certificate for the hour that you spent with us tonight, please click on that last link there to get your PD certificate. I'd also like to announce that on November 15th at this same time, the TNL team, the Teaching and Learning team, will be presenting Digital Citizenship with Tracy Poltzer, Brooke Whitlow, and Alice Barr. So go ahead and join us there on the 15th. Our lucky winner tonight is Lenore. Lenore, I'm going to be reaching out to you. Oh, did I not click on that the whole time? Could they see my screen, Emily, the whole time?
No, I could see your screen.
Oh, good. So Lenore is our winner, and Lenore, I'm going to be introducing you to Tracy Purdy, our Director of Online. So thank you so much for joining us tonight and sticking with us for the whole hour. Have a great evening, a great day, a great morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are, and hopefully we'll see you in November. Bye-bye, everyone.